Peer through many Nebraska farm fields this summer, and the results may surprise you. It appears this plains region in the Midwest may have been spared from drought conditions. Timely rains have boosted the endless acres of corn and soybeans. Timely because every 92 to 96 hours, many of the state's pivot systems make a full pass on each field of irrigated crops. Few farmers nationwide have the moisture control provided by 100-foot-long professional sprinkler systems, and few years are as risky as 2012.
I don't know that we've been drier. We've had years 2002, 95, 88 have been dry years, but probably not to the extent that this one has been with the heat, combined with the heat, the dry, and the wind that we've had along with it.
The blast furnace, formerly known as the U.S. Corn Belt, has left growers from Kansas to Ohio helpless to defend their crops. But some Nebraska farmers can dip into a precious oasis, the region's vast Ogallala aquifer. Darrell Honeycutt uses mostly pivot irrigation, but a few fields are still equipped with older technology, gravity irrigation, as the water runs from one side of the field down to the other.
This is just pollinating, or just finishing up pollinating. So you can see it's pretty well pollinated every kernel. There's a few blanks in there, which could be related to the heat.
Pivot systems are the mainstay in central Nebraska, and the Honeycutt family fields are a perfect example of how quickly the Cornhusker State can become fields of feast or famine.
It would be classified as a nubbin with a few kernels, but with lack of rainfall, that will not develop.
This is a pivot corner, a small but thirsty section untouched by the aquifer's reach, and a clear contrast of what the entire state of Nebraska would look like without heavy use of pump irrigation.
Within a few feet, we would go from zero yield to a significant yield. At least 180 to 200 bushel corn within a few feet.
Nowhere are those concerns more researched than a short drive away to Lincoln and the National Drought Mitigation Center, where climatologists pour over 90 sets of data to develop the weekly drought monitor.
We're seeing impacts that maybe we saw with a multi-season, multi-year drought. So maybe it doesn't take a drought that's the worst severity to cause impacts. I think we're seeing droughts now that are causing impacts comparable to what we saw that took years to develop, or certainly months or seasons.
Tens of thousands of real-time data sensors, from stream levels to moisture levels to county-by-county rainfall, feeds into the drought monitor.
This is a state of Massachusetts and Delaware and Rhode Island all in one in some of these climate divisions, literally, for spatial coverage.
Since its inception at the University of Nebraska in 1999, the center has become the premier national resource for drought measurement. And for growers, the data are troubling.
I think you've got to right now be fortunate enough to be under some sort of a hit and miss thunderstorm that hits your farm, but it isn't going to be sort of this widespread, everyone sharing in the rain type of thing anytime soon. And our concerns will shift more from just the corn, which are taking a hit now, to sort of what happens to the soybean crop as this extends into August.
A dry winter may have set the stage for the 2012 drought, but the past 60 days have brought the brunt of intensity. From mid-May to mid-July, the Corn Belt has slowly but surely dried of nearly all its moisture.
So maybe this isn't as long-lived a drought as we've seen, but drought's all about timing, 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 instead of, say, real estate and location, location, location.
And the economic costs are just beginning.
Everybody across the nation was wondering why in the heck is this part of the country doing so well? Well, it was doing so well, a lot to do with agriculture.
Each month, Creighton economist Ernie Goss surveys bankers across the Midwest and publishes the Rural Main Street Index. His latest report revealed steep declines in key sectors.
And even those that have crop insurance, there's no crop insurance for the ag equipment sales person, their company, and our ag equipment sales index dropped to recessionary levels. In other words, we hadn't recorded an index for ag equipment sales this low since early 2009. That was before, of course, the recession ended for the U.S. economy.
Back in the fields, the Honeycutts, like many Nebraskans, are running their pivot systems non-stop this summer in an effort to stave off dry conditions. Daryl's son, Zach, monitors each field's moisture data in real time on his iPad.
Here we have where it's graphing the soil moisture content. These little spikes you see, that's where we've either had a rain event, which obviously hasn't been the case this year, or an irrigation.
In normal years, these tools would show growers when to turn off irrigation, but there's no need for that in a drought. Near Trumbull, Nebraska, Doug Sadoff has farmed with pivot irrigation since the mid-1990s and is running his diesel-powered pivots nearly 24 hours a day.
We're used to a hot, dry summer, but just the 100 degrees for 10 days or whatever, and we got 10 more days, probably the high 90s here, so it's tough on the crops, but we got to keep the irrigation going, and it's a struggle, but we're getting there.
He also uses a newer moisture distribution technology on a small section of his farm: drip irrigation. Small lines are laid 16 inches below the topsoil prior to planting. This professional soaker hose slowly adds water to the entire field and mitigates most evaporation concerns. While the process uses less water, the technology and installation doesn't come cheap. Other Nebraska irrigators have less control than Sadoff or Honeycutt. Many growers in south central Nebraska are strictly allocated a set amount of water each growing season. And some were told this week to turn off the spigots because nearby streams were running dry. It's a lesson not lost on the farmers of the Ogallala Aquifer.
I know someday it'll be our region. We're not allocated right now how much water we can pump, but I know that day is coming, and we need to be prepared for it. We need to start now before it happens.
In the meantime, growers like Sadoff and Honeycutt hope $8 or higher corn will offset constant pivot irrigation input costs. 2012, ironically, could be a blessing of sorts for growers toiling away in the Nebraska plains, if the economics of national drought and localized irrigation pencil out.
Those farmers, those ag producers that have irrigated crops in those areas that have had moisture are doing real well. In other words, if you got a good crop, well, of course, prices are at very good levels. So those farmers are doing real well.
For Market to Market, I'm Andrew Bott.